Each card on the left matches one on the right. Draw lines to match the cards which are equal in value. One has been done for you. So we have 3 times 6, so 18, and 9 times 2, which is 18 as well. So these cards are equal in value. So now 10 times 5 is 50, and if we find the answers, then we can match them up later on. So 10 times 5 is 50, 5 times 8 is 40, 9 times 10 is 90, and 5 times 20 is 100. That's because 5 times 2 is 10, but then if we have a 0 in a multiplication question, we need an end 0 in our answer as well. Now 2 times 25 is 50, and we can work that out using short multiplication. 50 times 2 is 100, because 5 times 2 is 10, and if we have an end 0 in the question, we need an end 0 in the answer. And now for 3 times 30, we know that 3 times 3 is 9, but we have a 0 on the end, so that's 90, and 10 times 4 is 40. So now that we know the value of each card, we can match them up. 10 times 5 and 2 times 25 are both 50, 5 times 8 and 10 times 4 are both 40, 9 times 10 and 3 times 30 make 90, and then 5 times 20 and 50 times 2 are both 100, so have the same value. First, we have 150 plus something equals 500. So we have a missing number addition, which means that we can subtract to find our missing number. We can work out 500 minus 150. We could do that mentally, or we could use column subtraction, but that gives us an answer 350. Now 172 minus something equals 60. So here we have a missing number subtraction. And because it's the second number of our subtraction that's missing, we still use subtraction to find the missing number. So we need to work out 172 minus 60. Again, we might be able to do that mentally, but we get 112 as our missing number. Here is a jigsaw with one piece missing. Which one of the pieces below fits the hole in the middle? So remember, we might need to rotate our pieces, and our answer here is C, because if we rotate piece C, we can see that it will fit exactly into the hole in the middle. Write each of these numbers in its correct place on the sorting diagram. We need to write 40, 8 and 15, and we have circles for multiples of 5 and multiples of 2. So remember, a multiple of a number can be divided by that number without giving a remainder. So 25 is a multiple of 5 because it's in the 5 times table, or can be divided by 5 without giving a remainder. And 30 is in the section in the middle, so it's in the circle for multiples of 5 because it's in the 5 times table, and it's in the circle for multiples of 2 because it's in the 2 times table. And we know that because if we divide 30 by 2, we get 15, so we get a whole number. So 40 is a multiple of 5 because it's in the 5 times table, but 40 is also a multiple of 2 because we know that all even numbers, all numbers that end in 0, 2, 4, 6 or 8 are multiples of 2. So 40 goes in the section in the middle. If we divide it by 5, we'll get 8, and if we divide 40 by 2, we'll get 20, so we get whole numbers, which means that it's a multiple of both. It's a common multiple of 5 and 2. Now 8 is not a multiple of 5, it's not in the 5 times table, but it is a multiple of 2, so 8 goes in this section here. And now 15 is in the 5 times table, but it's not in the 2 times table, so 15 goes in this section here. Calculate 369 plus 251. So we can set this out as a column addition. 9 plus 1 is 10, so that's 1 0. 1 plus 6 plus 5 is 12, so 1 2. And 1 plus 3 plus 2 is 6, so that gives us 620. A shop sells batteries in packs of 4 and packs of 2. Mary buys 2 packs of 2 batteries. Hamid buys 1 pack of 4. How much more does Mary pay than Hamid? Well, first, let's work out how much Mary spends. She buys 2 packs of 2 batteries, and a pack of 2 batteries is 85 pence. So we can multiply 85 pence by 2, or add 85 pence plus 85 pence. That gives us 170 pence, which is the same as £1.70. So that's how much Mary spends. Now Hamid buys 1 pack of 4, and a pack of 4 is £1.48. Now we need to know how much more, so we need to find the difference between £1.70 and £1.48, and to find the difference we always subtract. So we can copy down our decimal point and then subtract as normal, and that gives us £0.22 or 22 pence as our answer. A shop sells batteries in packs of 4 and packs of 2. Simon and Nick want 2 batteries each. They buy a pack of 4 and share the cost equally. How much does each pay? So Simon and Nick buy a pack of 4, so that's £1.48. And because the 2 people share the cost equally, to find how much each pays, we can divide the total cost by 2. So we copy up the decimal point. 1 divided by 2 is 0, remainder 1. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So they each pay £0.74 or 74 pence. This table shows the numbers of children who went walking, sailing or climbing at an outdoor centre. How many children went sailing in May, June and July altogether? So we need to look at the row for sailing and add the total in May, the total in June and the total in July. So 50 plus 42 is 92, and if we add another 15 to that, we get 107. So 107 children went sailing altogether. Now, how many more children went walking in June than climbing in June? So we can find the number who went walking in June, the number who went climbing in June, and we need to find the difference because the question says how many more. So to find the difference we subtract, and 80 minus 27 is 53. So 53 more children went walking than climbing in June. These are the temperatures in York and Rome on a day in winter. How many degrees colder is it in York than in Rome? So if we look at our thermometers, we can see that the temperature in York must be 2 degrees because that's 2 lines above 0, and we know that each line is 1 because to get from 0 to 5 we have 5 lines, and the temperature in Rome is 2 above 5, so that's 7. Now it says how many degrees colder, so we need to find the difference, and we do that using subtraction. 7 minus 2 is 5, so it's 5 degrees colder in York than in Rome. Now, on another day, the temperature in York is 4 degrees. Rome is 7 degrees colder than York. What is the temperature in Rome? So, we have the temperature in York, 4 degrees, and we need to subtract 7. But 7 is larger than 4, so we know that our answer will be a negative number. From 4, we can subtract 4 to get to 0, but that's subtracting 4, and we want to subtract 7 altogether. So we need to subtract another 3, because if we subtract 4 and then 3, that's subtracting 7 in total. So 0 minus 3 is minus 3. So the temperature in Rome is minus 3 degrees. Here are some shaded shapes on a grid. Which 3 shapes have reflective symmetry? So reflective symmetry is where we can draw a line or imagine a line down the middle of a shape so that we have the same reflected on both sides. So for shape A, we have reflective symmetry because if we folded the shape along this line, we would be able to fold this side over so that it completely covered this side with nothing overlapping. But shape B does not have reflective symmetry. Now you might think we could have a horizontal line of symmetry here, and that would be splitting the shape in half, but then when we folded this side over, it would overlap with the side below. So this point would fold over to here, but we don't have any point here in this side of our shape. So shape B does not have reflective symmetry. Shape C has a line of symmetry here, because if we folded the shape along this line, we would be able to fold one side over so that it completely covered the other with nothing overlapping. So we have shape C as well. Shape D does not have a line of symmetry, but shape E does, because we could fold the shape along this line so that this side completely covered this side with nothing overlapping. We have the same reflected on both sides of our line of symmetry. So remember, a line of symmetry doesn't have to be vertical or horizontal, it can be diagonal as well. So shape E is our other shape. A camping shop sells tents, sleeping bags and backpacks. This chart shows how many of each they sold in June. The shop had 20 sleeping bags at the beginning of June. How many of these sleeping bags did the shop have left at the end of June? So we can see the row for sleeping bags, and we can see from our key that a rectangle split into 4 shows 4 sleeping bags sold. So we have 4, another 4, another 4, and here we have 3. So to find how many were sold in June, we have 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3, so that's 15 bags sold. But the question doesn't ask how many they sold in June. The question asks how many they have left. We know that they started with 20, and if they sold 15, we can subtract the 15 that they sold to work out that they must have 5 bags left at the end of June. Now, in July, the shop sold 3 times as many tents as in June. How many tents did the shop sell in July? So here, we need to work out how many they sold in June and then multiply that by 3. For tents, we can see that this shows 4 tents, so we have 4 and then another 2, so that's 6 tents sold in June altogether. But they sold 3 times as many in July, so we need to multiply 3 by 6 or 6 by 3, and that tells us that they sold 18 tents in July, because 18 is 3 times 6. Circle 2 numbers which add to make 0.12. So with 0.12, we have 1/10 and 2/100ths. And the numbers we need to circle to make 0.12 are 0.05 and 0.07. If we add 5/100ths and 7/100ths, we get 12/100ths, but that's the same as 1/10 and 2/100ths. The easiest way to see this is using column addition. We can copy down the decimal point. 7 plus 5 is 12, so that's 1, 2. 1 plus 0 is 1, 0 plus 0 is 0. So if we add these numbers, we get 0.12. Leon and Sarah each started with different numbers. Leon says, I added 5 to my number. Sarah says, I subtracted 8 from my number. Leon and Sarah both get the same answer. What numbers could they have started with? So we know that they get the same answer, and Leon added 5, Sarah subtracted 8. So what we can do is think, what could the answer have been? And here we can really choose any number that we want. So if we choose 10, for Leon, we can think what plus 5 is 10. Well, 10 minus 5 is 5. So if they ended up with 10, Leon would have started with 5. And then Sarah, we have something minus 8 is 10, and 10 plus 8 is 18. So if they ended up with 10, Sarah must have started with 18. So Leon could have started with 5 and Sarah 18. But our answer doesn't have to be 5 and 18. There are other possibilities. So we just guessed that the answer they got might be 10. If we choose a different number for their answer, so if we choose 15, for Leon we have something plus 5 is 15, so 15 minus 5 is 10. And then for Sarah, her number minus 8 is 15, and 15 plus 8 is 23. So we could have 10 and 23 as well. So there are lots of possible answers for this question. But notice the difference between 5 and 18 is 13, 5 plus 13 is 18, and the difference between 10 and 23 is 13 as well. 10 plus 13 is 23. And the difference will always be 13. And that's because 5 plus 8 is 13. So if Leon added 5 and Sarah subtracted 8, and they got the same answer, the difference will always be 13. Calculate 3/4 of 840. So to find a fraction of a number, we divide denominator times top. So first we can divide 840 by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 0 divided by 4 is 0. So now that we've divided by the denominator, we can take our answer and multiply it by the numerator. So 0 times 3 is 0, 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. So that means 3/4 of 840 is 630. This spinner is divided into 9 equal sections. Which two different numbers on the spinner are equally likely to come up? Well, let's look at the numbers we have in each section. We can see that we have the number 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. We have the number 1 twice. We have the number 4 only once. And we have the number 3 only once. So that means the numbers equally likely to come up are 3 and 4, because they both have just one section of the spinner. Mira says 2 has a greater than even chance of coming up. Explain why she is correct. Well, we can see that the number 2 is written on 5 sections of the spinner, and there are 9 sections altogether. So as a fraction, we could write the probability of the number 2 coming up as 5 over 9. And 5/9 is more than 1/2, so that's a greater or more than even chance of coming up. Peanuts cost 60 pence for 100 grams. What is the cost of 350 grams of peanuts? So we know that 60 pence is 100 grams, but we want to find 350, and we can't multiply 100 by a whole number at least to get 350. But what we can do is work out 300 grams by multiplying by 3, and then we'll be able to work out 50 grams because 50 is half of 100, so we'll be able to work out 50 grams by dividing by 2. And then if we know the cost of 300 grams and the cost of 50 grams, putting those together will give us the cost of 350 grams. So 100 times 3 is 300, 60 pence times 3 is 180 pence, or £1.80. And then, because we know 300, but want to know 350, we need to find the cost of 50 grams. And from 100 to get to 50, we can divide by 2, because 50 is half of 100. And 60 pence divided by 2 is 30 pence. So now, because we know the cost of 50 grams and 300 grams, we can put those together, and £1.80 plus 30 pence is £2.10. So that's the cost of 350 grams of peanuts. The other way to solve this is to first divide 100 grams by 2 to work out that 30 pence is 50 grams, and if we know that, we can then work out 350 grams because 50 times 7 is 350. So we can work out that 30 pence times 7 is 210 pence, or £2.10. Raisins cost 80 pence for 100 grams. Jack pays £2 for a bag of raisins. How many grams of raisins does he get? So we know that 80 pence is 100 grams, but we want to know how many grams we get for £2. We can't multiply 80 pence by any whole number to get £2, but we can double 80 pence, so 80 pence times 2 is £1.60, and 100 times 2 is 200. So for £1.60 we can get 200 grams of raisins. And we can also find 40 pence, because 40 pence is half of 80 pence. 80 pence divided by 2 is 40 pence, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. So we know that 40 pence is 50 grams, and £1.60 is 200 grams. So if we put those together, £1.60 plus 40 pence is £2, and 200 grams plus 50 grams is 250 grams. So he gets 250 grams of raisins. The other way of working this out is to first divide 80 pence by 2, so work out that 40 pence is the same as 50 grams. And then when we know 40 pence, we can multiply to get £2. 40 times 5 is 200, so 40 pence times 5 is £2. And then 50 times 5 is 250, so our answer is 250 grams. Kate has some rectangles. Each one is 4 centimetres by 9 centimetres. She makes a design with them, calculate the width and height of her design. So we can see that the length of a rectangle is 9 centimetres, and for the width we have 2 rectangle lengths, and we also have 1 rectangle width, which we know is 4 centimetres. So to calculate the total width, we can work out 9 plus 4 plus 9, so the width is 22 centimetres. And now for the height, we can see that we have 2 widths of a rectangle, so that's 4 and 4, and we have 1 length, which is 9. So to work out the height, we have 4 plus 9 plus 4, so that's 17 centimetres. Tony and Gemma looked for snails, worms, slugs and beetles in their gardens. They each made a pie chart of what they found. Estimate the number of worms that Tony found. Well, if we look at Tony's pie chart, we can see that worms is this section here. So that's just over 1/4 of the pie chart. Now, because the total is 80, if we find 1/4 of 80, so divide 80 by 4, that tells us that 20 is the same as 1/4, but the section for worms is slightly more than 1/4, so will be slightly more than 20. So I would estimate 23, but you get the mark for an estimate of between 21 and 26. Who found more snails? Explain how you know. So we can see that snails take up 1/4 of Tony's pie chart, and 1/4 of the total of 80 is 20. So Tony found 20 snails. Now for Gemma, we can see that the pie chart shows half of the chart for snails, and because the total is 36, we can find half of 36 to find the number of snails. So if we divide 36 by 2, that gives us 18. So Tony found more, because 1/4 of 80 means that we have 20 for Tony, but 1/2 of 36 means that we only have 18 snails for Gemma. Circle two different numbers which multiply together to make 1 million. So we have the numbers 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 and 100,000. So if we take 100,000, that's a 1 with 5 zeros on the end. With 1 million, we have a 1 and 6 zeros on the end. So if we multiply that by 10, we'll get a million, because multiplying by 10, we can just put a 0 on the end of our number. 100,000 times 10 is 1 million, because here we have 5 zeros, and here we have another 0, so that's 6 zeros in our answer, which gives us the number 1 million. The other possible solution is 10,000 times 100. That's 1 million, because in the question, altogether we have 6 zeros, 4 here and 2 here, so that means we have 6 zeros in our answer. So we could have 110,000 circled as well. Liam has 2 rectangular tiles like this. He makes this L shape. What is the perimeter of Liam's L shape? So remember, the perimeter is the distance around the outside of the shape. So what we can do is label the sides that we know. We have 3 shorter lengths, and we know that the shorter length of the rectangles are 5 centimetres, and we have 3 longer lengths, which we know are 11 centimetres each. But we also have this length here. Now this isn't necessarily going to be the same as the shorter length. But notice, we know that this length at the top is 5, and that this length at the bottom is 11. And 5 plus our missing length is the same size, the same length as 11. Now 5 plus 6 is 11, so we know that this missing length here must be 6 centimetres. So now to find the perimeter, we can find the distance around the outside. We have 3 lengths of 11 centimetres, and 3 times 11 is 33. We have 3 lengths of 5 centimetres, and 3 times 5 is 15, and we have 1 length of 6 centimetres. So the perimeter is the total length around the outside, so we can add those lengths. 33 plus 15 plus 6 is 54, so the perimeter of Liam's L shape is 54 centimetres. this sequence of numbers goes up by 40 each time. So we have 40, 80, 120, 160, 200, and so on. So we have multiples of 40. This sequence continues. Will the number 2140 be in the sequence? Explain how you know. So we need to work out whether 2140 is a multiple of 40. So whether this number is in the 40 times table. And we can work that out by dividing it by 40. So if we get a remainder, then it's not a multiple. We have a division with end zeros, so if we cancel those, we can work out 214 divided by 4, and that gives us a remainder. So 2140 divided by 40 is 53, remainder 20, because 214 divided by 4 is 53, remainder 2. So because we get a remainder, it will not be in the sequence. All numbers in the sequence are multiples of 40, and 2140 is not in the 40 times table. Another way to work that out would be to spot that the number 2000 will be in the 40 times table, because 20 is in the 4 times table, so 2000 will be a multiple of 40, but 140 is not a multiple of 40, so that means 2140 will not be in the 40 times table. Calculate 8.6 minus 3.75. So we can write the numbers out with the decimal points lined up, because if the decimal points are lined up, then the place values in the question will be lined up as well. We can write zeros in empty squares and copy the decimal point down into our answer, and I like to do that straight away so that I don't forget. So now we can subtract as normal. We can't do 0 minus 5, so go to the left, 1 less, 1 in front. 10 minus 5 is 5. We can't do 5 minus 7, so again go to the left, 1 less, 1 in front, and 15 minus 7 is 8. 7 minus 3 is 4, so that gives us our answer 4.85. The shaded triangle is a reflection of the white triangle in the mirror line. Write the coordinates of point A and point B. So let's look at point A first. We know that when we're writing coordinates, we always write the x coordinate first and then write the y coordinate. So if we go down to find the x coordinate, we can see that point A is in line with this point here, which has an x coordinate of 11. So that means the x coordinate, the first number in the coordinate of point A, will be 11 as well. And then to find the y coordinate, we look across and we can see that point A is in line with this point here, and that has a y coordinate, a second number of 9, so the y coordinates for point A will be 9. Now we need to look at point B. Now we don't know what the x coordinate is, but we can work it out by plotting what we do know on our x-axis. So we know that this point here has an x coordinate of 1 because that's the first number in the coordinate, and this point here has an x coordinate of 5. So notice we need to find this point here, but this difference here between these two lines that I've drawn will be the same as the difference between these two lines, because when we reflect shapes in a mirror line, lines always stay the same length. So we can work out that the length of this line must be 4, because 1 plus 4 is 5. These numbers have a difference of 4, so the length of the line at the bottom of the triangle will be 4, which means that when we reflect it, the length at the bottom of the triangle will be the same. So we know that these lines at the bottom of each triangle will have a difference of 4. So 11 plus 4 is 15, which means that point B must have an x-coordinate of 15. And then for the y-coordinate, we can see that point B is in line with this point, and this point, and they all have a y-coordinate, a second number of 3. So that means the coordinates for point B are 15, 3. Layla knows that 65 times 3 equals 195. Explain how she can use this information to find the answer to this multiplication, so 165 times 3. She can work out that 100 times 3 is 300, and then add 300 to the answer to her original calculation. So 300 plus 195 equals 495. If she knows 65 times 3, to work out 165 times 3, all she needs to work out is 100 times 3, and then she can add her answers to 100 times 3 and 65 times 3, and that will give her the answer to 165 times 3.